out what I could do, what I could get away with, and I had never truly stood up. I was engaged politically. I was watching. I was frustrated. But that day in the Texas desert is the day that I said, I will not comply. And I remember driving to the checkpoint with my wife and our 3 kids in the back, and one of them was crying. I think Asher was about 2 months old. And I came up and he started asking me these questions. And I said, well, no. And he said, well, pull over to secondary. And I said, no. And he said, you have to pull over to secondary. And I said, really? Do you suspect me of committing a crime? And we know this drill, but the bottom line is I said no, and I lectured that young man. I blocked the state highway for 15 minutes, and they routed traffic around me because I said I will not pull over.
Yeah.
Now, that was the first time, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I had gradually learned along the way, and in spite of myself, God always makes sure I come out of it in one piece. And as I always like to say, I will start every battle on my knees before God, but I will end standing boldly on my feet before tyrants.
Amen.
Now let's bring this to Spokane County, because I'm really glad to see people standing up here. I've seen quite a bit of lawlessness coming out of this county, and you're not the only one. We have this problem down in Grant County. But a great patriot friend of mine, Anthony Bosworth, and I don't see him, but he's around here somewhere. If you see him, shake his hand. He has a red beard, and he looks like a redneck, so you'll recognize him. Oh, well, maybe not, but there he is back there. We came up here, and you may not have seen this video yet because we just released it yesterday. We came up here a few weeks back, and we went down to that safety complex there, not feeling very safe, and we went in there with cameras. And we went wherever we want in that place for about 4 hours. We just wandered around and we questioned police officers and we looked at their unmarked cars. And by the end of the night, it was amusing because the police were running from us. And I've found something, and I'm coming to a point here with all of this. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. And people will come to me and they'll say, Gavin, you're too aggressive, or you walked up and you stuck your foot in the door and you wouldn't let that officer leave. And I say, what employer would tolerate the utter disrespect that our employees give us? You would be out on your ass by 5 o'clock. Now, we need to act on principle and on liberty and on justice, and we need to be equal for all. But that doesn't mean we have to bow down. And when you stand the line and you stand boldly and you expect the law and justice to be upheld, the paradigm changes. In my town just a couple of days ago, I just pulled in to watch a police stop. And they know me there, and I wasn't doing anything. I was just observing. It was late at night. And my little town tends to have that issue with police where they just like to sort of harass people. And let's be clear. I don't dislike police or authority. I hate injustice. Now, as soon as I pulled in, this officer was walking to the car, and I just sat in my car. I turned on the camera like I do sometimes when I feel the inkling, and he walks back to his car and turns his spotlight directly into my eyes so that I can't see. So I moved the car up in front of him, and I pulled in front. I got out of the car, and I went and I dressed that officer down right in front of his stop. And he said, well, you need to go back to your car. You need to put your hands in his pocket. And I waited then till the stop finished. And I went back and I said, you listen to me. Don't you ever behave like that again. You work for the people, and you will respect the people. And he said, is that a threat? And I said, no. You just need to remember who you serve. Yeah. Now, I think it's time in Spokane County. Anthony and I came up here, and we saw complete disregard for accountability on every front. You know, in Washington State, it's illegal for officers to run around in unmarked cars because it's dangerous. And we should know who our daughters and our wives are being stopped by in the dark of night. Right. They should not have to fear a rapist at their window. Right. Because our police are more concerned about hiding in dark alleys to write taxes to drivers that are going 6 miles an hour over the speed limit.
Yeah.
A government that spends its time harassing its citizens for petty faults rather than dealing with real crime has failed at its reason to exist.
Yeah.
I think the sheriff of Spokane County has been given enough chances. And I say to the citizens of this county, maybe it's time to start looking at firing the employees that do not do their job. And you don't have these lawless officials. It's time we stop tolerating this lawlessness. Now let's bring this right to here, and I don't know how long I'm supposed to speak, so just nudge me if I'm supposed to wrap up here. This MRAP, it's not about MRAPs, it's not about guns, it's about liberty. It's about accountability. It's about a government that does not look at people and say, well, we need these special weapons for those constitutionalists. I'm sorry, those constitutionalists are the ones that you are supposed to defend with your life, and we're looking at the wrong paradigm with our public officials and our peace officers. We say, well, some of them are oath keepers. How about we demand that all of them be oath keepers?
Yeah.
Make no mistake, if we don't stand up, America, and stop tolerating this, if we don't stand up, I've learned that we can still stick our neck out and not have it chopped off. And so have many other of you standing here. I see many fine patriots. I see the birds over here. I see all these people that for years, many have been standing up for much longer than I have. We can stick our neck out. We can stand courageous. Because nothing terrifies a bully more than someone who will stand up to them.
Yeah.
So when I look at this situation that transpired over the past week, and it's a positive thing in one sense, because what changes things is the conversation. And I say this all the time because the enemy is much better and has much more resources to get the conversation out. And we need to always bring it back to that umbrella of liberty that encompasses the justice and the law that we placed on government. Let's be clear. The Constitution gives us nothing. The Constitution is a law that we placed on government to say, this is what you shall do. You know, I've been studying John Locke a lot lately, and then I've been watching in the news as these Supreme Court decisions come down, and they basically say, well, the Fourth Amendment doesn't apply here, and the Second Amendment doesn't apply there, and maybe tomorrow it'll be, well, those Christians in that church, that's illegal, and let's take this over here. That guy's house is nice. Let's take that and kill him. Does that sound good? That's called democracy. And that's not what we have in this republic.
Yep.
And I was reading John Locke recently, and he said a magistrate or a judge that is operating outside the authority that was granted him, he is no longer a judge. The Supreme Court, when they say we decide this doesn't apply, that is not law. And people come to me and they say, well, Gavin, the Supreme Court said, I don't care what the Supreme Court says. Me and these patriots will defend our home and our family with justice and And so when we look at this MRAP and we look at all these things going on, we see this militarization of police. Read my lips, Ozzie Knizovich. The people should be armed equal to government.
Yeah!
Now, I think it would be a phenomenal idea for us to pool together for these rallies, and if they can have an MRAP, we can have a tank.
Yeah!
So let's get back to the foundation. Regardless of where we come from, let's remember to get on our knees and then to stand boldly on our feet. Let's remember the principles that this nation was founded on. Because a lot of people spilled their blood to give us the ability to stand here today and to say these words and to look defiantly at government and say no. And make no mistake, if we do not stand now, my children and your children and our grandchildren will take it back at the price of blood. And I, for one, will never have my children look at me. If we lose, and that day I stood up in Texas, I recognized this is the day that I decide that I am willing to sacrifice everything that I have for liberty and for my children. If liberty is lost, my children will never say to me, "You didn't even try." And for the rest, let us commit it to God for the rectitude of our intentions to stand with us, and let us stand now to prevent the spilling of blood later. Let us stand while we still can, and remember what liberty stands for. So whether it's an MRAP or whether it's 594, we stand. We stand because we can, and because it is our duty to do so. We are the sentinels of liberty. We are the police, and we do not have to comply with the whims of government. Because a government that violates our rights is not a lawful body. They have declared war on we the people. And we have a right to stand up and say no. We have a right to start recalling elected officials. Let's stop shaking hands and smiling with tyrants. Liberty has no place with tyranny. It has no cooperation with tyranny. I'm not interested in working across the aisle with tyrants. I'm interested in liberty.
Yeah!
And in closing, let's bring this all together. This is what we saw here this weekend. This is what we saw in Olympia last weekend. Washington State, liberal old Washington State, is setting an example for the world. Because we are standing, we had 1,500 to 3,000 people committing last weekend the largest felony civil disobedience in American history. Right Nine-time felon. Yeah, who's a felon now in this crowd? Exactly. It's a felony to the state, not to me. And according to the state, I am a criminal every single day of the week. And I am proud to say it, but I stand on real law.
Good.
And this is my permit.
Yeah!
If I don't have it, I still have my rights. Because my rights were not granted by this. And it's important to remember when they wrote this, they talked about it. They were almost didn't put the Bill of Rights into the Constitution because they were afraid that government would try to manipulate and interpret and abuse it. Oops. Now, I'm not saying we did a bad thing by putting them in there. I'm saying the problem with America is not government. The problem with America is all of us. The problem with America is people who will not stand. And I see all these people standing, and it makes my heart smile. I see my family, and I see my parents over there, and I see all these patriots standing. Who comes out on a cold December day and looks government in the eye and defies them? So let's not end it here. Let's remember that it's not just about the rally. Let's start defiantly defying lawlessness. And let's be serious about that. Last week, some of us stood up in front of the crowd and we burned our concealed weapons permits.
Yeah!
And I say, why are we not all doing that all across America? And it's a little daring, it's scary sometimes to step out. It's a tightrope walk sometimes. But the more people stand up, the less authority government has. And I do not need permission from my county sheriff to carry a weapon in any fashion that I desire.
Yeah!
So I think we're going to get some other people. I know we have some fine speakers coming up. We have Matt Shea over here, Matt Shea, I have to say, he was sticking his neck out for liberty before it was cool. And so I'm sure he's going to have some fine words for us. But I just want to thank you all for being here, and I'm glad I got to come out and say hello to everyone. And let's just remember to keep the message going, educate our friends and our neighbors and our children, and for heaven's sake, do not let the government teach our children anymore.
Yeah!
Letting the tyrants, let's stop letting those that oppose diametrically everything we believe in liberty and faith and justice be the ones who tell our children what is right and wrong. And I, for one, will not let these people teach my children anything.
Good.
Liberty isn't easy. Liberty is hard. And liberty comes with a price. And a lot of people have died to make sure that we have it. But I will not stand silent and let that go to waste. And I hope you won't either. Thank you.
Thank you!